Hello and welcome to EE447. I'm your instructor, Gregory Myers. In this video, we're going to continue looking at lists. This time, we're going to style our lists as opposed to trying to address the aesthetics in HTML. So to begin with, what we'd like to do is we'd like to pull up the previous examples of list 01 and list 02, as well as the W3 schools documentations. I'll pull up a couple of pages there as well. So what we want to do first off is we want to go to New File, HTML file, open. And then what I want to do is I want to call this one now. I'm going to go ahead and save this as example list 03. So example list underscore 03. And then before we forget, let's go ahead and change the title. Okay, so the main benefit of having your list 01 and list 02 already up, it's not necessary. It's just that we don't have to copy and paste quite as much. We don't have to retype as much. We can copy and paste some of what we're trying to do. So what I want to do is I want to look at our prior examples and see if we can't change their appearance. However, in the previous example, particularly in the sorted list example, we controlled the behavior by modifying the type attribute. And so what we'll do is we'll start there and then we'll look at the unsorted list. So to begin with, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to reconstruct the ordered list example. Once again, if you've got it open, you can just go ahead and copy and paste it. We're going to put it in the body. And what I want us to do now is I want us to take out the type. And instead, what I want us to do is I want to have us replace it with a class. Okay, so in this example here, what we're going to do is we're going to think of this as sort of a precursor to a table of contents, and you have levels associated with a table of contents. And so with this, I'd like to call this one, this ordered list, this outer ordered list, I'm just going to call it level underscore 1. You can of course come up with a better name if you need to. The inner ordered list, I'm also going to change the type, remove the type, and instead I'm going to refer to it by class, and this is going to be level 2. You can see where, or why rather, I'm using this sort of generic class name because we can then continue this on to a level 3, level 4, and so on. So there's no real limitations to this other than our own imagination. So this one will also be a level 2 because if you notice, it's on the same level as the other nested ordered list. It corresponds to history of the web. And so at this point, you're probably seeing the pattern. And so go ahead and copy and paste such that all of your nested ordered lists have the same level 2 class. Now, just a refresher, if you haven't, or maybe you haven't watched the video yet on the difference between the ID and the class, the ID is supposed to be unique to an element within an HTML document. The class allows for or can be assigned to multiple elements. It's basically just a way of grouping, or it's a good way of grouping. Okay, now let's go ahead and save this, and you'll see that unlike the previous example, it's similar. However, though, in the previous example, we forced the nested outer ordered list to be alphabetic, and right now we're just simply relying on the default, which is numeric, for the inner ordered list. And so basically, essentially, we have no style. We only have structure on this one. Okay. And so what we want to do now is using CSS, we want to figure out how can we go about doing this. And we're going to start off with inserting our style into the head tag. And we're going to begin with our ordered list. And what we can use is we can use the dot to qualify then which class of the ordered list are we interested in looking at. So since this is nested or tiered, I'm interested first to begin with my ordered list level _1. We're going to go ahead and create a placeholder now for the style associated with that. And then likewise, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a style for the ordered list level 2. There's not going to be a lot we're going to change appearance-wise on this. We're just going to focus on the approach more than anything. But what we want to do now is we want to take a look at some of the CSS or some of the style that we can change. In this case, what I am interested in is changing the list style type. And this essentially corresponds to the HTML attribute of type. And so the list style type for the outer one, if we want to match the previous example, is going to be numeric. And so what we want to do is we want to specify, one second here. Right by here. Here we go. We're going to specify decimal. And then list style type for the inner one is going to be alphabetic. And so we're just going to keep with the same pattern. So we're just going to use the upper alpha. All right. And then we're going to save it. And then you see that we essentially have the same representation that we had in the prior example. Okay. All right, but this time around, though, we're actually using our style. Biggest advantage is once you've defined the class, you can then use this in multiple places in your document. You only have one place to change it up top. Now, we're going to do the same thing real quick with the unordered list. And so I'm going to do this one down below the ordered list. So sort of doing this one in reverse order from the prior example. We'll go ahead and copy my unordered list and paste it below. Go ahead and save it. We'll go ahead and refresh it. Tell you what, probably not a bad idea to go ahead and look at this in our web browser. Okay, and so we're now on our list 03. We can see that we have the default bullet points for our unordered list. And so what we want to do is, just like we did with the ordered list, we want to go ahead and assign a class now to the different levels. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is, to avoid a namespace conflict here, I can go ahead and change the class name. In this case, we could call it class level 1 and class level 2, but then that would limit our options to be able to style based solely on class. So probably something that you would want to consider doing is to change this, instead of just having this as level 2 or level 1 for our ordered list, it would probably be useful to prepend, for instance, OL. Okay, you'll still be able to do this. You'll still be able to, for instance, have class level 1 and class level 2, and you'll see how we're going to handle the differences between the ordered and unordered lists. So we'll start off with class equal to level 1, class equal to level 2, and you see how Visual Studio is helping me populate my class value. So this is class level 2. And so right now, essentially the unsorted list and the sorted list, depending on which level you're on, or they have the same class name. All right. So if we were right now, go ahead and save this real quick, you'll see that there's no change to the second list because we have yet to apply any sort of style to a UL element. Okay. And so to begin with, what we want to do is we want to create a UL level 1 placeholder and a UL level 2 placeholder. It's always good to just do that up front before you worry too much about the style. And let's just change something about it here. So let's look at now the list style type associated with this particular element. And so what we can do is we can perhaps change the outer one to a circle. That's the open one. So just to differentiate it from the previous example. And then we can change the list style type for the inner to, let's see what we can find here. How about if we do a square? All right, and now, and this is intentionally different from the other one. I didn't try to match the unsorted list from earlier because I wanted to show you now how you can then tweak your behavior of your list as far as the bullet points. And for that matter, for the UL level 1 and level 2, you could actually use the same bullet style if you wanted to. All right. So there are other properties you can change, of course. You can change the font color and other aesthetics regarding the elements in the list. So this is sort of a precursor, if you would, to a formal table of contents. In this particular example, you would have to provide your navigation yourself. So in other words, you'd have to be selective about your URLs that you use. And in another video, we will cover how to do both the navigation as well as anchor tags. Hopefully you found this video useful. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you.